Hey there, before we get started on this B-Shifter podcast, this is being released the week of August 10th, 2026, and it will be in two parts. This is part one. Part two will be out later in about a week and a half. And this is to commemorate our brand new module for Silverback Leadership titled Boss Behaviors. The new module is up. It's ready for you to review. If you're a Blue Card IC, you'll get it in the continuing education area. So log on, check it out, check out that module. Also, I want to mention, if you're headed to FRI, Fire Command, 3rd edition, now available to purchase. If you're watching the video, here it is, the brand new Fire Command. And you can get this at FRI for $25 off and come home with it. If you are not going to Fire Rescue International and you still want to take advantage of that $25 off promo, just get on, check out, and on checkout, type in promo code Bruno, all caps, 2026. Bruno, 2026, all caps. That will get you $25 off. That offer expires August 17th, 2026. Now let's get into this week's B-Shifter podcast. Welcome to the B-Shifter podcast. Today it's John Vance being joined by Nick Brunicini and Terry Garrison. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you doing?
How about you?
Good. It's nice to have the Silverbacks back together.
Right. Here we are. Mm-hmm.
Talking.
We're all still alive. That's the first, most important part.
Yes, it is.
Silver hair, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At this point in time, every day is a gift. That's why they call it the present. I knew you'd like that one.
That's nice. I'm going to tell that.
We're out here doing a Train the Trainer, and every morning I get up and walk into the kitchen and tell the guys, are you ready to shape the minds of America's incident commanders?
Oh, nice.
Let's go do it. And Kelvin Alexander's like, JV, you got me pumped up. So
They're so nice to you.
yeah,
They want to throw hot coffee at you.
I'm sure they do. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's too cheerful at that time in the morning. Today we will be talking about leadership. So we have a new module that is coming out for the Silverback Leadership Program, which is available for a limited time to all Blue Card subscribers. So we want to hit on that because this is a limited time deal, right?
Truly. And it's kind of slowed down us releasing the things here a little bit. And we're kind of backflowed with them as we've really got 2 finished. We just haven't put them out yet.
Right.
So this one will be coming out here very quickly, shortly, within the next week or two. But we've been working to other, the plate's been too full, so we've had too much other nonsense going on. So the Silverback kind of got hung up in the thing. But like you said, JV, the plan the whole time with this program is we were going to release it as we finished each module. It's just the benefit for people that are signed up taking our CE program. So they will have the opportunity to go through every single module. So even when the last one's up there, when we put the 9th module up, they'll have at least a couple months to go through that, and we'll let them know, hey, you got this is at this date we're going to remove all this content, and we're going to cook it down into one program. So it'll be, I don't know, probably a 12-hour online program, something like that. 12, 16 hours, right around there. And then here in the next month or two, we're going to start earnestly figuring out what the 3-day in-person cert lab, for lack of a better word, is going to contain and look like, kind of. So
having support for leadership is important. And this is really a lot of work that Bruno started that you guys recovered, added to, and put it together.
Yeah, the last 10 years of his life, this is what he was doing, was going off and teaching functional boss behaviors and no-brainer management.
So I always say I was pretty fortunate because he was coming to the city of Glendale and talking to the fire, whoever showed up. It could be firefighters, fire captain, engineers, chiefs. And he would show up every few weeks and go through one of his modules. So once again, we're the curators of this, and that's what we did. Is we grabbed all his information out of the boxes and books and everything that he put together. And it's really AMP, Anatomy and Physiology, of customer service. It's no-brainer management. It's functional boss behaviors. There's so many of them. Every time I think about them again, I get kind of caught up. And then what we did is we added some of our new programs that we've done. Like we added the Phoenix Fire Department Way, the Houston Way. There's some information in there. There's a safety survival guide that's going to have some information. Just a really well-rounded package of how a leader can kind of help his department move forward, and how leaders within the organization can help move that organization forward. So I think it's going to be a good program.
Well, that was the other part of it. Is it's the whole thing is really an effort for the workforce to deliver added value service.
That's it.
So when you look at the people that are most familiar with the program right now, who have a pretty good idea of what's going on currently in the fire service as far as training goes, have all said the same thing. They said there is nothing else out there like this. And the reason is because the crazy guy invented it all. And he was running the fire department around the service delivery piece of it. He wasn't running it around, I'm the administrative boss of all you, and this is how you show your obedience to the leader, and then the icons that we maintain of my leadership power and omnipotence. Egos eat brains. That's where that will lead you to. There's too many holes that you build that's going to trip you up in effectively delivering service as an organization.
Yeah, big problem I see with fire chiefs, and without being too critical, but it's like, okay, I'm the fire chief. I'm responsible for the management of the organization and dealing with the council. You're the ops chief, so you're going to lead the operational piece. Oh, yeah, you're the EMS chief. You're going to lead the EMS division. Oh, yeah, you're the HR guy, so you're going to keep people in line through disciplinary processes, and you're the logistics guy, so your job is to kind of get them whatever they need. No. The fire chief works as a team, and they all work together to lead the organization. And the second the fire chief looks away from that, he or she is going to have a big problem, because at the end of the day, they're the ones responsible for it. So you can't really delegate as a fire chief your responsibility away to somebody else. Now, you can delegate responsibility to a person, but at the end of the day, you're still responsible for how that gets done.
Well, I think a lot of it is it's just natural. A trap is a lot of fire chiefs think I'm part of the mayor's team.
Right.
So they see themselves as the mayor of the fire department. I'm not the mayor because the mayor's up there. They're my direct boss. I can see him and touch him. But I have all that mayor power for the fire department now. So I'm actually the mayor's representative here to run the fire department. Well, see, when you're managing off the work, it's the customer and the person delivering the work, the labor is who you. So that was. See, he never let go of that connection. He was never the other fire chief guy I'm the imperial dress, 5 bugle, blah, 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 ceremonial leader. It's almost like fire chiefs think they're the fire commissioner.
Yeah.
And that kind of screws it up. Because like in some systems, like New York City, they're like, no, we need somebody just to deal with the politics of this thing. And then we need an operational person. So one of the best quotes out of any book was Vinnie Dunn. And he was talking about leadership. And the fire commissioner did something, and his mentor, whoever that was, said, no, that was political leadership. The difference, and it's confusing, is like political leadership doesn't have to make sense. In fact, it oftentimes doesn't because it's political. They said operational leadership has to make sense because you have to be able to do it. So you have to be able to recreate. If you're a dentist, you have to be right on pulling teeth or filling teeth or whatever it is. It can't be, I'm going to make your teeth pretty so you're politically popular. It's a whole different thing.
So, were you going to say something, John?
Well, no, just a sideline. I was talking to Josh the other day about all these referendums and the possibility of property taxes being repealed and everything else. And you know, I think we're, not to be an Armageddonist, but we're going to see some tough times coming up. And the more the fire department focuses on the work and the more that they connect with the community, it's going to be harder for the community to cut those services or gut those services. You know, and we were talking in particular about a fire department that didn't really care for community interaction. And it's like, you've got to have that community interaction and be about the community, specifically about the work, and be good about the work that you do. And it's harder for the community then to gut your budget.
You're going to need them. Yeah. Wait, here's the most effective fire bosses. I'm going to read a little bit off our program because I want to make sure I get it right. But the most effective leaders, fire chiefs, is they recognize kind of the difference between the management role and the connection to management, the fire boards, and the mayors, and their connection to the people actually doing the work, the firefighter. So here's first of all, here's what management wants. And you started it, Nick. Here's what the city manager, the mayor wants. They want you to be a part of their management team. Mm-hmm. They want you to hold the budget line. Mm-hmm. They want you to do more with less. They want you to retain that management control. They want you to represent the party line, if there's a party line within the city, because the city has its own culture. And they want you to hold members accountable, right? That's what the management wants. And if I scroll down here a little bit, it says, but what do the workers want? Because the boss needs to realize that, and he also needs to realize this. The workers want you to be part of a team. They want you to support them. They want you to understand them. They want you to defend them, represent them, and advocate for them. And they want you to hold other members accountable. Mm-hmm. So the best bosses are the ones that say, and that's what Bruno did so well, because he wrote this. He realized that, hey, I'm fighting this. This is always happening.
There were similar things that both the city wanted, or your bosses, and the workers. Half of it was identical.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of the same. They want you to be a part of their team, and you're so.
I think there's talented people that could do that. They could be part of both and still maintain their.
So
I don't know, honesty.
I thought you were going to say sobriety.
Well, that too, because I mean, if belonging to both groups makes you schizophrenic, you can't belong to both groups. I mean, it's just, and there's some systems you can't. I mean, you got to pick. You're with them or you're with us.
Well, you think about the role of labor when you have a very strong labor group and you get a fire chief in there. The fire chief gets really caught in the middle of that.
Oh, 100%.
Because they're the membership, only what they are, they're a collective voice of that membership. Hopefully, that's what they're doing. And then you got management up here, and because they have different missions, they have different viewpoints of just about everything, the fire chief's caught in that middle position. So being a fire chief is difficult.
Oh, yeah.
But the last thing you want to do as a fire chief is go to your members and say, my job is difficult. Mm-hmm. And I've heard of fire chiefs doing that where they would say, hey, you don't understand how hard it is for me. No, fire chiefs shouldn't do that, right? Fire chiefs should recognize that their job is difficult.
Well, usually they say that right before they do something horrible to somebody.
To the members.
Yeah, because they have to, because of coming from up on high. Yeah.
And
delivering bad news, I guess, would be.
And if you're an applicant looking for a fire chief job somewhere, we have a buddy of ours who did that, and he was ready to support the members. He was ready to support the city. He was fully engaged. He went through the interview. He felt like he was doing really well. And the very last question that they asked him on the panel was, and are you willing to cut our staffing from 4 to 3? Okay, now that's it. You're going to have to make a decision about whether that job is going to work for you or not by the answer that you give them, because you can't go, well, I don't know. And then you can't go back and do that job. So you can't lie to them and say, yeah, I'm willing to do that, and then take your position as the fire chief saying, I was just shitting you.
Well, there's a lot of people that would do that.
Yeah, they would
say, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. And then when they had to, no, I'm not going to do it.
You better pick a nice vacation area because you're going to spend a lot of time away. But this guy said, no, I'm not willing to do that. And he didn't get the job. But it's good that he knew that right up front. So if you're looking for a fire chief job, understand that the managers want something from you, and the members want something from you, and the labor group. And then how are you gonna? And the best way to do that is, by the way, what are your values? What do you value? And Nick always says it: value the work, value the workers, support what they do. Make sure they give the best possible service in the safest possible way. And if you say, hey, here's my values are these. And if cutting it to 3, cutting the staff into 3, that does not match up with my value, because I don't think it's safe for the firefighters. Now, if you have 3 and you're going into a system with 3 and that's all they got, sure, go in and support them and help them and do the best they can with 3. But when you hear a question that doesn't support your values, or you see an organization going in a certain way, it's like, nah, that's not going to work for me. Value-based decision-making on the front end works really well.
See, but you can't sustain a system. A house divided can't stand. And so, like, when you have an authority having jurisdiction that says, I want to get rid of the fire department. I want to go from 4 to 3 to 2 later, and then I want to take all the power from them so they just do what I tell them all the time. That's not going to be a tenable thing. And all of those departments have fire chiefs, and a lot of them will represent that. No, I just have to do what my bosses tell me. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's examples of that throughout the history where people did what their bosses told them, and it was a stupid, immoral, illegal thing, and there was a price to pay at the end of it.
Usually at a trial.
Yeah, there's a trial, or the Hague exists for a reason. I mean, it's just so. And I think that's part of the boss's thing, is to keep where you can keep delivering the mail. Well, you can't do that when everybody's shooting and fighting at each other all the time. It's a huge disruption in delivering service, especially for cities. And I mean, we've been doing this long enough where we've seen those systems where the union's first impulse is to sue, to blackball a fire chief, and then to sue the city. Those are very dysfunctional places. They're well known. I mean, we used to go to Firehouse in Baltimore, and they're doing picket lines wearing neon green shirts, the union's wearing, made in Vietnam, talking about how their American workers are getting screwed. And you're like, both sides are wrong. And you're like, you guys aren't... No one's here leading for the work. You're all fighting over something that has to do outside of why you're here. So it's...
So this section, once again, is on boss power. So you understand the position you're in, and you understand the power that you have. And we talked about it a little bit before we went on air here, is that there is no neutral position as a boss. You're either moving forward. Nick said it. If you think you're going to be divided and keep peace and nobody's going to rock the boat in either one of those areas, you're living a fantasy world, because you need to move the organization forward. Now, are you going to move the organization forward in the way management wants? By the way, they think that is moving forward. They think by cutting resources and doing it,
we can do it for free.
We can do it more effectively or efficiently, or we can cut down to 2 persons every night, because we don't need 4 firefighters at night. I've heard that one. You guys heard me talk about that?
We hear doing blue card, going places. I said, no, we don't do that. We don't have SOPs like that, because we're different. And you're like, okay, so you fight different fires. And they say, yeah, our fires are different. And you're like, well, I've seen some of your video of them, and they're screwed up. So I guess if that's your definition of different, you're right. They are different because of you is why, not because of the fire.
So when you're talking to city managers, what I found is our very first section in this is focus on the work. And if you can sit across from a city manager or a politician or a council or a fire board, and you explain the work that a firefighter does, why it takes 4 firefighters, why 3, you could do it. But here's the things that is going to happen when you have 3. If you got 3, okay, we got 3. But this way it's going to, when you have less fire stations and your call volume's going up, okay, well, you don't have to build another fire station, but here's what's going to happen. And Nick always says the human body hasn't changed. In about 5 minutes, they're going to need oxygen, or they're going to need to be saved from whatever they're experiencing. So I found it best is not to really, and it doesn't always work because I had my own issues with that, but it's like when you explain your role as fire chief, I would tell them my job is to support the firefighters delivering the service, because the only reason firefighters exist is to provide that service. Now, when you start cutting these resources, here's how you're going to impact our firefighters' ability to deliver that service in a safe way. They listen. They don't always agree. You know, that old thing that Niece Parker says where I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you. Mm-hmm. They get very frustrated by all that because all they see is one firefighter equals $220,000 a year or whatever that is, whatever that number is. And they're caught up in the numbers. But once again, focus on the work. And I think that's what Alan Brunicini did more than anything, better than anything else. He focused on the work and on the workers. And you can't add value as an organization until you get a fire chief that gets behind the basic service delivery, the core services, actually understands that. And there's some fire chiefs that aren't able to really describe the service that their firefighters do very well because they moved away from it. And maybe some things have changed since they actually sat down and listened and paid attention to the operations piece. But they need to stay connected to that so they are able to describe that. A politician asking you, hey, I saw somebody fell down on a mountain the other day and there was 3 engine companies from different cities. What is all that about? Well, you need to be able to describe that. Hey, there's a trench rescue. What is up with that? Why was there so many firefighters on that? Why didn't you guys just get them out of the trench? You got to be able to describe that and explain that. So you got to know the work. It all goes back to understanding the work and then use your boss power, which is what we're going to continue to talk about. Use your boss power to support the workers. I think that's the way we see it here today, right?
Well, Vance, you were talking about this the other day. We were talking about a fire department, and they have staffing for 1,200 people. That's what their number is to maintain, and they're down to 900 right now. So one of the comments somebody made is sooner than later, is this fire department's going to have to explain to the city why they're no longer doing interior firefighting. It's all going to be outside. They just can't staff to the levels they need to sustain that kind of an IDLH incident operation. So, see, that would become a leadership thing. Now, here, like in my own community, the response times have gone up over the last 25 years. They haven't gotten smaller, they've gotten bigger. Right. So I have noticed that is a very uncomfortable question for local politicians whenever that comes up. Whenever the media, there's a story where you have to talk about how long it actually takes to get emergency responders to your front door. 7.5, 8, 9 minutes. And see, it's untenable because the public is like, so now reporters are asking, well, if somebody's watching their child die, they have to wait 10 minutes for the. Well, no, that's not what it is. So these politicians, they live in a world where they want it both ways all the time, where I have to be physically responsible. And we're talking about city, where like the budget's short, so they're going to take 3/4 of it from public safety. Well, that's where they have to take it because 3/4 of their budget is for public safety. Exactly. I mean, that's just the math. Yeah. So, and that's a real thing. You said it. Being a fire chief sucks because you have to balance the budget. And I mean, that's the way the city kind of controls the fire department. This is all the money you have. Well, see, at some point, whether it's like, okay, we got plenty of money to hire people, but we can't hire them. They won't sign up anymore for whatever reason. Or we don't have the money and we can't hire them. Right. Well, okay, we can't keep doing this. When we get 10 minutes, we're no longer emergency services. You got to call it something else. Well, if you're going to remake that is too big a deal. The fire service don't get to do that on their own. I mean, we can't because we're the last ones with the bag. But the fire chiefs are the ones that are going to have to represent that to the public. Is saying, no, we don't have the resources to do what you want us to do anymore. See, that's where the work becomes so powerful in it. A lot of people try to dismiss it and put it lower tier, but it has the biggest It's the heaviest thing that's going to hit you is when your work is screwed up. That you can't recover from that, I think, as a fire department. When you're known for just being a shitty fire department and delivering core services, good luck, man.
Okay.
It took generations to destroy that organization through just horrible, self-centered, ego-based leadership. Is why you suck, basically.
And I would say it took generations to build a good fire department.
Oh,
It
without
takes
a doubt.
very few things to tear it down.
It's like a library, man. It takes a millennium to fill it up and 10 minutes to burn it all to the ground.
yeah.
I mean, and we're seeing that now just because of what's going on
elsewhere.
at the highest levels of government, let's say. We'll just call it that, yeah. Where people that don't actually understand the work, that's the most dangerous, is somebody that doesn't understand the work but thinks that they're a deity of some kind.
Let me.
I mean, that's you talk about untenable.
Let me share with you something that happened in an organization I worked at. Is you get a city manager who decides he's going to cut the fire department, but he's had conversations with the fire chief, me, and it's not going right for him. He can't figure it out.
He's got to, yeah.
And he's got politicians who want him to cut the fire department. So now the fire chief's up against this whole system. So brilliant guy, the city manager, he goes, we're going to form a committee. And we're going to look at every department within the city for efficiency. I can't even remember what it was called. It went on for 3 months.
It sounds like Doge.
It's an efficient. It might have been. It's an efficiency committee. He goes, and what we're going to do is we're going to take people.
And who's on it? Who's on
that's
it?
what I'm telling you right now. See, he's reading my mind. Well, I'm going to get some finance people. I'm going to get some HR people. I'm
A lawyer
or two. Nick and I have drank beer together. I'm going to get people from other organizations. I'm going to get a guy from Public Works. I'm going to get a police.
Yeah, a bunch of cops. I'm going to get a bunch of cops.
And he goes, and we're going to go through and we're going to do a deep dive. Don't you love those terms? We're going to deep dive this week. Okay. He goes, so here's what I want you to do is put together what you can explain so you can get us all on the same page to explain what the fire department does. We could do that. Give me give me
Buddy,
3 weeks.
Yeah, you just
We
killed yourself.
showed up with a PowerPoint presentation back when we did those. Now it's different. And a binder that thick and described everything we do as a fire department and how we do it and why we do it. And it took us, so we would do 2.5 hour sessions that would last 3 hours. And it took us, we had a meeting a week. It probably took us 10 weeks to go through that. And he's trying to rush us. Like, no, you wanted.
Yeah, I'm just doing what you told me.
So about the 6th week, he left the meeting and said, I'm going to leave this to you guys. I'm sure they had some sort of discussion who they left that with. By the time we were done describing everything that we did, what did the committee want to do?
Give you more money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jeepers, creepers, you guys need more money. You need to do this. And by the way, you saved my grandmother. And by the way, you guys did this. And what you said about being kind to the people and always focusing on added value. His committee went down like this in flames.
Okay, so what did he do?
He said, well, he wasn't satisfied with the results of it, so he didn't do any other departmental.
So he just stopped with you?
Yeah. It never happened with anybody else.
That's ideal, though. That's really what fire chiefs should be doing, is demonstrating the value that the fire department has, explaining it, not living in secrecy.
No,
and there's departments that hide, it's like, don't tell them what we do. We don't want anybody in here. The doors stay shut.
Me and 2 assistant chiefs showed up for 4 hours a week because we get questions afterwards, and we sat there and explained our entire system to them. And we would bring in subject matter experts, too. It's like, well, I'm going to bring in this.
I got my own lawyers and city managers and other people, man. I got ER doctors. In fact, I got better looking experts than you guys do.
Well, the thing about it is we could not have done that if we would have focused on the budget without the work.
No, it's the work, man.
If we would have focused on the HR without the work, if we would have focused on the legal without the work, you've got to focus on the work.
You said it. When the work ends up producing, thank you. You guys got here so quick and you saved my baby. Now, we can abuse the living shit out of that. It's saying, no, you have to give us everything because we saved the baby.
We're the heroes.
Yeah. No. See, that's counterproductive.
Yeah.
My old man he told a story where he goes to City Hall, and they were going to City Hall all the time. So he's there with whoever, and there's a deputy city manager, and then 2 ranking cops get on the elevator, and they're going up. And they look at my dad and say, "Oh, Jesus, the fire chief's here. What do you want, chief?" And my dad looked at him and smiled, and he just said, "More." That was it. He says, "More." And we'll show it because we got video of it. But he talks about what you did with the PowerPoint and the binder. He said, we always had it in our pocket. Mm-hmm. And he says, it got to the point when I would go to reach to my pocket, my boss would tell me, "Don't take that out. No, you don't get to do this to me anymore." In fact, what they did to him is they said, "Alan, you're the greatest of whatever it is. Thank you very much. But if you can't overspend your budget again. And if your overtime is going to be an issue, we need to know sooner." And like somebody stayed after from the city manager. He says, "They're serious." He says, "You can't do this to them again." And he says, because before it was they had all the money in the world. And he says, "Oh, got it." He said, and so that was his deal. He says, I didn't end up getting less. They wanted to know more often what was going on. So he says, what it did is it produced me, ended up getting more from them. That's
at the beginning of every budget year, we would meet as a team, and then we would go to finance and meet their team and tell them, this is how much we're going to be over our overtime budget, because this is the MOU. Mm-hmm. This is the number of firefighters we have. We're going to be over this much. Well, you can't be over that much. No, I'm telling you right now, on record, this is how much we're going to be over. I don't know how else to explain that. So sure enough, 3 months go by. How are you guys doing on your overtime? Well, we're over this much. We're going to be right on target for being over at the end of the year. And somewhere along about the 3rd cycle, they found money for us because there's money somewhere in the city. And they found the money. But we were able to describe it to them. So I got in trouble in one department because I didn't let them know up front.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you can't assume they know that.
No, it's notification. And that's not unreasonable. You work for the authority having jurisdiction. No, it's like you got this much. Okay, this is a...
And a fire chief should know that. But
they should.
It's based on the work and the amount of workers. So 24/7 with 28 spots a day or whatever, 100 firefighters a day times 24/7 is going to create this much. You need this many firefighters because the MOU allows these firefighters this much time off, and then they take this much time. And he said, your firefighters are too sick. I said, no. So what we did is we went back to the city, and we had our deal. And we showed that the firefighters take less sick leave than any other position within the city.
Yeah, it's all bullshit.
I mean, it was so much fun when you got really smart people on staff that can figure that out, because it wasn't me. It was the team that we had. They're like, "Oh, Chief, look at this."
Well, like in the case of the MOU is crafted by the union executive board and the city.
Right.
And it's by the city council. Yeah. I mean, it's not B&R's in the room, but it's the people who actually, the elected officials who are responsible for running the city. So anything that was in the MOU as a chief, especially because you're part of management then, they would come to you and say, "We need you to start doing X, Y, and Z with the sick leave program because we take too much sick leave." You're like, it's in the MOU how much sick leave that the members can take without having doctors know. It's the rules that they signed
the MOU. They agreed to it.
Here are the rules that my bosses and my boss's bosses agreed to. This is what I'm going to do right here. Well, some assistant chief comes to me and says, "No, we're going to do this." Now, I figured out at that time, I just smile and nod, and then they leave, and I'm not going to do it because the MOU overranks that moron who... And the fire chief was part of the MOU. So at that time, we had a fire chief that just kind of would forget day to day what he had done, depending on what his dosages were. So It was a different, saying you get used to the bosses you work for, I guess, talking about boss power. And the thing that I love, Vance, throughout my career is I had figured out pretty early what you could get executed for and what you wouldn't get executed for. So once you knew those rules, there was really not a lot your boss could do to you if you did what you were supposed to. I mean, they can make your day miserable and other things, but...
Well, so, Nick, and that's the same thing for a fire chief, is that, you know, your city manager can tell you to do something, and you don't have to really be rude or mean-spirited like I was at one time. You could just say, yeah, I don't think I can do that. Check this over here. And when they go check this over there, they go, yeah, you're right. We can't do that. You need to talk to your attorney, or you need to talk to these folks, or why don't we talk to the medical director and how that impacts patient. So I guess what we're just, and I love it because this is only 2 little slides in an entire boss power section. So it's
a way of life is what it is. Yeah.
Boss power function has 4 sections to it. So we're just talking about the very first piece, which is the boss power itself and why it's so critical, and there's no neutral power. It's either positive or negative. And then the next couple sections move through the process, and we start talking about positional power versus personal power. So we could talk about that here. And then it kind of moves down into the different areas that a boss has power over. And then we get to a wonderful part in here, which is boss goofs. And we could talk, but so I guess all this that we're talking about is just the beginning piece of the boss power. And we give a lot of examples and a better way, I think, based on what Bruno taught us.
Well, I like the deal that you said where there's no neutral.
Yeah.
You can't be neutral in the thing. So you're never just kind of idling. You're always either going up or down, it seems to me.
So I found the fire chiefs that think that they create their neutral position by not showing up. Now, that's not neutral. That's negative all the way, right? But how many times...
That's absenteeism.
Have you guys seen that?
Yes. Oh, a lot. Yeah.
Well, And how does the troops feel about it when they show up every day and their fire chief or one of their, and it could happen within the organization someplace else. You may have a battalion chief or a response chief who's dealing with a difficult issue in their battalion, a couple captains or a personnel issue or something going on, and they decide, no, now's a good time to go to Alaska for about 4 weeks. And they go absent for a while. When they come back, that problem is probably still there, and it's festered and it's gotten worse.
Or they don't have a job.
They don't have a job.
I've seen that happen too. Lately I've been encountering fire chiefs that maybe they are neutral, but they're I think of it like monkey in the middle, and the troops don't support them or don't feel like they're doing their job, and the city doesn't support them or feel it. And they're kind of stuck. So how do you get unstuck? How do you get out of neutral and into a position where you're no longer just, sitting idle?
Unfortunately, what you just described is a credibility problem. And, firefighters, they have capabilities and they have credibility. And there's some very capable fire chiefs that will lose credibility based on becoming absent or going and focusing on the wrong thing, like focusing on management, not focusing on the troops. And when you lose credibility, you almost can't get yourself unstuck, I think. I think the monkey in the middle, I can't envision what he's doing in the middle. But when you're in the middle and if you've lost credibility by both sides, it is real hard to pull yourself out of that. It almost takes somebody and I've seen this, where a labor leader will see that and say, hey, man, we got to help this fire chief out because the next fire chief we get is going to be worse than this, or they're going to be from the outside, right? And I've come in from the outside, so I know how that feels. But we're going to end up with some knucklehead. It's kind of like you promote so you don't have to work for that idiot. Well, they keep their fire chief because he's manageable, but they got to help him build credibility. So like, hey, have you ever heard a union say, let's get the fire chief a win?
Yeah.
So he looks better with management. So usually pulling yourself out doesn't happen on your own, because you're so embedded in that monkey position. The city manager who hired you, say he's a hiring board, whether it's a mayor or a city manager, I've seen them help some fire chiefs out too by giving the fire chief some sort of win somewhere. But at the end of the day, the fire chief, they're having serious one-on-one conversations with the fire chief. Say, you know what, right now you have no credibility. You are seen as a knucklehead. I'm going to give you this, and this is all you're getting. And if you don't take this and lift your head out of your arse and start paying attention and doing what you need to do, you're on a very short rope, right? That's what I think. Do you see them pulling themselves out?
I think that happens sometimes, and I think if one group or the other is committed to the fire chief and they see the value in that fire chief, that's when they're going to do it. And if they don't see any value because the chief hasn't given it, they're not going to help the chief out. So I think one side or the other could help, and I've seen it help. I've also seen it where the credibility's lost, and they're not going to help anymore. They're done, and they're going to look for any excuse to get rid of that fire chief and do a wholesale change.
You know, we also talk about in this area lower down, one of the sections within this function is angels and demons. So when I think of angels and demons, I don't think of a chronic issue with the fire chief, although that could be the case. But when a fire chief does something, the demon gets in his head, and we all know the angels over here and the demons over here. Nick talks a lot about that in his life. And we would spend a lot of time talking about angels and demons. But if you do something really demonic, really stupid, and you've built credibility up until that point, and you haven't been an absent person, a fire chief or leader, and you've tried in other areas, there's a chance for you to survive something pretty stupid because one of those two groups may help you out with that.
Well, I think that's part of it. If like the mediocre do-nothing fire chiefs you're talking about that just want to exist, is the good ones, the people that last the longest in that mode, are not disruptive. So what they don't do is they don't go to work and screw things up. They may be an impediment to progress and other things, and they represent like just being a static,
Nick,
do nothing.
Fire chief used to say the difference between dysfunctional and disruptive.
Yeah. So you can be somewhat dysfunctional. And like, no, I want to put my shoes on every morning and step 15 years into the past. And that's the way I'm going to run this thing. We're not going to take command. I'm going to give you a card. And if you're fourth do, you're also stupid. Figure out what do you are and then just read on and do what that says. Okay, I'm that kind of fire chief. So I think those guys can last a while, because they're not disruptive.
Yeah.
They're just dysfunctional. But they're not, nobody's dying to go to work for them. But I've known some of those guys that were fire chief for a really long time. And you're like, and you wonder, how do they do this? And most of the guys who work with them say, well, he ain't a bad guy. So it's almost like the good dude thing.
Dude, yeah.
He's a good dude, Yeah. Well, no, he's a nothing. But, he's not.
He's least likely to.
Yeah, exactly. He's not going to take resources, but he's not going to get you a new station. So it's a push.
Can we expound on angels and demons a little bit, just so everyone knows what we're talking about? Because we need to explain
angels
that concept.
is the ethics in your body that causes you to do good things, and then the self-indulgent behaviors are what the demons kind of pat you on the head.
My constant struggle was the lack of regard. And I knew on the team.
The dudes ain't talking like I'm a stud enough for them. Yeah. Please. Yeah. That's a horrible ego thing. That's a wretched ego thing.
Angels and here's Bruno's description. So because you asked. Angels and demons describe the positive and negative behaviors the boss uses to deal with people, places, and things as they encounter below, above, and across from them, their boss activities and situations. So what he's basically saying here is that every interaction you have, there's a demon, and believe me, I know, or there's an angel. And the way most of it has to do with interacting with people. And think about the times in our lives that I'd said it last time where I was getting on the freeway and this guy cut off my wife and she's in the car in front of me. My demon says, catch that son of a gun. That's not the right thing to do. So demons aren't something that is so...
It's an impulse. It's really an impulse.
It's not always so demonic. It could be something really simple and the wrong thing to do, right?
Yeah. It could be.
I think that's why I wanted to go back.
Those are the worst. Those are the worst demons. The ones that wear angel faces, because they get deeper in and they can do more damage. Because you think, okay, I'm doing this for the good of somebody or myself, and it really wasn't. It was just a bad idea.
Bruno described the best angel for us that there possibly could be, and that's the be nice characteristics of an angel. And he go through here, and some of them are loyalty and approval and admiration. And
what do they call it?
direction.
Reciprocity?
Yeah.
Reciprocity.
Reciprocity.
Yeah.
Charlie Munger talking about Charlie Munger used Bono as an example from the U2. And Bono's deal was, I'm going to be nice to everybody. And 90% of the time, over 90, they're going to be nice back to me.
Yeah.
And that's the way this works.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, well, you're just nice and patient. He says, no, I'm self-serving. What I do is I figured out how to get this and have a relationship with other people that's beneficial for both of us. So it's not transactional, is we're just going to be nice to each other as a general rule. So, and then when you do that, people that live that way are able to accumulate more because more people want to deal with them. So that's kind of like the work almost.
No, that whole transactional deal, the people that have interactions just based on what can I do for you so you can do something for me, doesn't work out really well in leadership positions.
No,
you need to do it. You need to have like value-based, I care about people. And Bruno said that once. I was talking to him about something, and he said, yeah, I don't think he likes firefighters. And he was talking about a chief officer. And I said, what do you think? He goes, I don't think he likes firefighters, Chief G. And I said, yeah, maybe he doesn't. He goes, it's hard to be a leader when you don't like the people you're leading.
Mm-hmm. We knew a fire chief like that.
Yeah.
They don't. In fact, she did the most damage.
And if you look
she cut it the deepest, man.
If you look at some of these demon behaviors, intimidation, fear, revenge. Those are three.
Yeah.
I
see, and there's fire chiefs that's their main motivations, is they're getting even over something that happened to them. Somebody somehow assaulted them organizationally, and that's the...
And those grievances run deep. That could be years ago.
It's a two-headed deal now. The demon's always there, and it's like, no, we're doing a set of things, we're taking karate so we can whoop their ass 2 years from now. And that's why they get the power, is so they can...
And you know what interesting thing about that is there's people who like them because favoritism is also another demon trait. When you start becoming partial to people for whatever reason, I like the way they look or I like the way they act because they follow me, they tell me I'm whatever. That's another demon. So you start looking at but none of these mean much until you interact it and you portray it on another person or something in the organization.
See, I think that's where the work is it's the tonic for everything.
Yeah.
It's especially for us because our work is held in such high regard by all of society. I mean, it really is. And so the people, you said it, Terry, when you go and you represent the work to the committee of budget cutters, and they sit there after about the third or fourth meeting, they're like, no, these guys need more money. That what they do for this city is so much more important than like putting a new traffic camera up. This is a higher value for all of us. In fact, that's really, to be honest, that's the best form of government is what a fire department does for the community.
I think so.
If you could put all service and government to that level, it would fix a lot of things, I think. It would make it, at least you could identify it and say, no, this is a thing. At least we're having the conversation with the people who are running fire departments. Like, no, you can't cut the budget because this is what we do with it.
But it's so weird that I've talked to people about these angels and demons before, and they go, what do you mean? And they get this like, this is so simple. That was the beauty of Bruno, is he would have these conversations about something that seems simple and take them a little bit deeper, and by identifying that, listen, we all know that there's angels and demons, and the way you feel about yourself.
That's the human condition.
Yeah, and the way
Shakespeare wrote about them.
That's the next function. The human condition in the next. But if
there's a
you got to flow.
I'm going to get ahead of us. There is a heading, a text heading in the next edition of Fire Command that says the flesh is weak. And so, I mean, it is 168 degrees. Your flesh goes away, man.
It does.
So yeah.
But just describing angels and demons in a way that you can teach it to people, and then you can have conversations. That's a big deal.
You could put instead of having an angel head and a demon head, you could have people, like well-known figures in society. Who do I want to be? Do I want to be that person or that person? That person or that person?
You know what? Another interesting thing about the angels and demons is that workers know their bosses when they're being an angel and a demon. Like, you think you're being sneaky when you're doing something that you're seeking revenge on somebody, or you're trying to intimidate somebody. You think you're the only one in the room that knows that you're being an asshole. Everybody who is watching you knows what you're doing. It's like, we see what you're doing. And he quotes this: the prisoners have an intimate knowledge and understanding of the guards. Right? Is that so true?
Hey, that's a fire department.
We know each other.
That's a wrap on this Bee Shifter podcast, part 1 of Boss Behaviors from the Silverbacks. I want to thank Nick Brunicini and Terry Garrison for being here. Join us next time for part 2 of Boss Behaviors. Look at the show notes if you're interested in any of our links, and make sure to share this podcast. Thanks so much for listening to Bee Shifter.